The library closed at 9, but I stayed until 10:30, like I did most nights. The head librarian had given me a key 3 months ago, when she realized I was the only person who could actually organize the rare manuscripts collection without having a panic attack over their age or value. I liked the silence. Liked the weight of books that had survived longer than most people's lifetimes. Liked that here, among the stacks, no one asked me why I'd come back to this city, or what I was running from. The translation was going well. An obscure Italian text from the 1922nd someone's personal diary, purchased at an estate sale and donated to the library's collection. My Italian was rusty but improving. I'd gotten through 15 pages when I found the phrase that made me pause. La morte viene con il silenzio, mai vivi urlano per sempre. Death comes with silence, but the living scream forever. I wrote it down in my notebook, the one I kept for particularly striking lines. Sometimes I'd use them in the writing workshops I taught on Tuesdays. Sometimes they just lived there, collecting like pressed flowers. The sound of the back door opening made me look up. We had a back door, technically, but it led to an alley that smelled like rotting vegetables and was padlocked from the inside. I'd never seen anyone use it. Footsteps. Heavy. Male. More than one person. My hand found my phone, but I didn't unlock it. Not yet. Maybe it was maintenance. Maybe it was. Check the back rooms first. The voice was low, controlled, and it didn't belong here. This wasn't the voice of someone who read books or cared about the Dewey Decimal System. I stood carefully, sliding my chair back without letting it scrape. The manuscript room was on the 3rd floor, accessible only by a narrow staircase that wound up from the history section. If I was quiet, if I was smart, I could. Someone's been here recently. Coffee's still warm. My stomach dropped. I'd left my mug on the front desk. I moved toward the window, knowing even as I did that it was pointless. 3 stories up. No fire escape on this side. The window didn't even open all the way, something about historical preservation and maintaining the building's original architecture. The footsteps were coming up the stairs now. I grabbed my bag, my notebook, left the manuscript open on the table because there wasn't time to properly close it, to put it away, to do anything but move. There was a storage closet, small, cramped, filled with boxes of discarded card catalogs and outdated reference materials. I slipped inside and pulled the door almost closed, leaving just enough gap to see through. 2 men appeared in the doorway, both wearing dark suits that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Both moving with the kind of fluid certainty that came from knowing exactly how dangerous they were. Clear, one of them said into a radio. The other one walked to the table, looked down at the manuscript I'd been translating. "Boss, you should see this." A 3rd man appeared. I stopped breathing. He was taller than the others. Younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, maybe less. Dark hair, dark eyes, the kind of face that would have been handsome if it wasn't so carefully blank. He wore a black suit and a watch that caught the light when he moved his wrist. He looked at the manuscript, then at my notebook beside it, open to the page where I'd written the phrase about death and silence. His hand went very still on the edge of the table. "Who's been working on this?" His voice was quiet, dangerous in its quietness. "Don't know, boss." The front desk said the building's empty. "Then why is this diary open? Why is there a fresh translation sitting here?" He picked up my notebook, and I watched his eyes scan the words I'd written, watched his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Could have been from earlier. Could have. This handwriting is feminine. The ink is fresh. Someone was here within the last 30 minutes. He set the notebook down, very carefully. Find her. Her. He knew. I pressed back against the wall of the closet, surrounded by the smell of old paper and dust. My phone was in my bag. If I could just text someone, if I could just check everywhere, every room, every closet, every corner where someone could hide. One of the men walked toward my closet. I made a decision that was probably stupid but felt unavoidable. I pushed the door open and stepped out before he could reach me. "I'm here," I said. My voice didn't shake, which surprised me. "The library's closed. You're trespassing." All 3 of them turned to look at me. The 2 guards reached for something under their jackets, guns, probably, but the one in charge held up a hand. "Leave us. Boss. Leave. Us." They left. I heard their footsteps on the stairs, heard the creak of old wood, heard the distant sound of the back door closing, and then it was just me and him and the manuscript between us. He looked at me for a long moment. I looked back, trying to catalog everything I could, trying to find something I could use later. When I was giving a description to the police, or trying to explain why I'd stayed late at the library and ended up face to face with what? I didn't even know. You read Italian, he said finally. Yes. You translated this. He gestured to my notebook. Yes. Do you know whose diary this is? I shook my head. The estate sale listing just said it came from a collection in Boston. No name attached. He picked up the diary, handled it with surprising gentleness. This belonged to my grandfather. It was stolen from my family's home in 1983, during a raid. We've been looking for it for 40 years. I didn't know what to say to that. The phrase you translated, he continued, still not looking at me. The one about death and silence. What about it? Those were the last words my father said before he died. He was quoting his own father quoting this diary, and I never knew where the phrase came from. I was 8 years old. I didn't understand Italian yet. He looked up at me then, and his eyes were black and depthless and wrong somehow. Wrong in a way that made my throat tight. Say it again. What? The phrase. In Italian. Say it again. My mouth was dry. La morte viene con il silenzio, ma I vivi urlano per sempre. Something shifted in his face. Not much. Just a small crack in the careful control. How long have you been working here? He asked. 3 months. And you've been translating this diary? I just started tonight. I didn't know. I didn't know it was important. I didn't know it was stolen. He was quiet for a long time. Then he closed the diary, very carefully, and tucked it inside his jacket. You're going to forget you saw this, he said. You're going to forget I was here. You're going to forget this conversation. Okay, I said, even though we both knew I wouldn't. He walked past me toward the stairs. Stopped when he was close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, cedar and smoke. What's your name? He asked. I shouldn't have answered. But I did. Elena. He nodded once. Then he was gone, and I was alone with my still warm coffee and the empty table where the diary had been. I locked up the library with shaking hands and walked to my car through streets that suddenly felt too dark, too quiet, too full of things I didn't understand. I didn't know his name. I didn't know what he was. But I knew, with horrible certainty, that this wasn't over. The black car appeared outside my apartment on Wednesday morning. I noticed it while making coffee, standing at my kitchen window in an old sweater and bare feet, watching the rain turn the street below into a river of gray. The car was parked across the street, engine off, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. It was still there when I left for work, still there when I came home. I told myself I was being paranoid, told myself it was coincidence, that people parked cars on streets all the time, that just because I'd had a strange encounter at the library didn't mean I was being followed. But I'd grown up in a family that taught me to trust my instincts, and my instincts were screaming. I started varying my routine, left at different times, took different routes to work, stopped going to my usual coffee shop, my usual grocery store, the park where I liked to read on lunch breaks. The car followed me everywhere. On Friday, I called the police. The officer who answered sounded bored. Ma'am, unless they've threatened you or made contact, there's not much we can do. People are allowed to park on public streets. For 3 days straight? In the exact same spot? Have you tried asking them what they want? I hung up. That night, I broke my own rule and went back to the library. Not to work, just to think. To be somewhere that felt familiar, felt safe, even though it was the place where everything had started. The manuscript room was locked. I didn't have a key to that particular door, just the main entrance. But I sat in the history section, surrounded by books about wars and revolutions and the things people did to each other in the name of power, and tried to figure out what I was supposed to do. The back door opened. I didn't run this time. What was the point? He came up the stairs alone. No guards. No guns that I could see. Just him in another expensive suit, his hair slightly damp from the rain. Elena, he said, like my name was a fact he'd been turning over in his mind. Are you having me followed? He didn't deny it. Yes. Why? Because you saw something you shouldn't have. Because you know something that could be dangerous. Because, he stopped, started again. Because I need to make sure you're safe. Safe from what? From people who might think you know more than you do. I stood up, my hands clenched at my sides. I don't know anything. I translated one phrase from a diary. That's all. That phrase connects to my family. To things that happened a long time ago. To people who are still looking for reasons to hurt us. He moved closer, not threatening, just closing the distance between us. The fact that you were here, Translating that specific diary? On that specific night, it wasn't random. It was completely random. The head librarian asked me to work on the manuscripts. I picked that one because the handwriting looked interesting. Nothing is random. The certainty in his voice made me cold. Who are you? I asked. My name is Luca Andretti. The name meant nothing to me. Should it have? I searched his face for clues, found only that same careful blankness. And what does that mean? Are you... I hesitated over the word, unsure if saying it would make it more real or more absurd. Are you part of something? Something illegal? Yes. The honesty surprised me more than a lie would have. My family controls certain interests in this city. Businesses, territories, political connections. We've done this for 4 generations. That diary, he gestured vaguely toward the locked manuscript room. It contained my grandfather's account of how he built this empire. Names, dates, secrets that people killed to protect. Then why was it in an estate sale? Because my uncle betrayed my father 30 years ago. Sold family records to our enemies. The diary was supposed to be destroyed, but it survived. And now it's back. I sat down because my legs didn't want to hold me anymore. You're telling me I accidentally stumbled into a Mafia power struggle? Yes. Because I like translating old documents. Yes. That's insane. That's my life. The rain hit the windows harder. Somewhere in the building, a pipe groaned. What do you want from me? I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled something from his pocket, a business card. Plain white with a phone number embossed in black. If anyone approaches you, if anyone asks about the diary, about me, about what you saw, you call this number immediately. And then what? And then I make sure you stay alive. He said it so matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather or the price of coffee, not my potential murder. I took the card. The paper was thick, expensive, the kind of quality that spoke of money that didn't need to announce itself. I don't want to be part of this, I said. I know. I just want to do my job and live my life, and not worry about black cars following me. I know. So make it stop. I can't. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Not quite emotion, but close. You saw me. You translated those words. You're connected now, whether you want to be or not. The best I can do is make sure that connection doesn't kill you. He turned to leave. Wait, I said. He stopped. That phrase, about death and silence. Why did your father say it? Luca's shoulders tensed. He was dying, shot in our home by men who'd been his friends. I was hiding in a closet, watching. He knew they'd let me live if he didn't fight back. I was just a child, not a threat yet. So he smiled at them, said those words, and died quietly. The horror of it sat between us. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. He chose silence so I could scream, so I could live long enough to make them pay. He looked at me over his shoulder. You should go home, Elena. Don't come back here after dark. Don't translate any more documents without checking with me first. Don't trust anyone who shows too much interest in your work. You're scaring me. Good. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps you alive. Then he was gone. And I was alone again with my racing heart and the business card burning in my hand. I went home. The black car was gone. But when I looked out my window at 2 a.m., unable to sleep, I saw a different car. Dark blue. Parked in a different spot. A different watcher. I called the number on the card. He answered on the first ring. I see them, I said. I know. Stay inside. Lock your doors. I'm on my way. Luca arrived in 15 minutes. I watched from my window as his car pulled up, sleek and black, different from the one I'd seen following me. He got out alone, looked up at my building, and something in his posture made my chest tighten. He looked like a man preparing for war. My apartment was on the 4th floor. No elevator. By the time he knocked, I'd made coffee. I wouldn't drink, and changed into real clothes instead of the pajamas I'd been wearing. They're gone, he said when I opened the door. But they'll be back. Who are they? Rivals. People who think I'm weak because I've been quiet lately. People who want to know what I found in that library. He stepped inside without asking, closed the door behind him, locked both deadbolts. You need to pack a bag. Excuse me? You're not safe here. They know where you live. They know who you are. They'll use you to get to me. I don't even know you. They don't care. I stood in my own living room, surrounded by my books and my plants and my carefully constructed quiet life, and felt it all slipping away. I'm not going anywhere with you, I said. Elena. No, I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose to be involved in your family drama. You want to protect me? Fine. Hire security. Park your cars outside. Do whatever you need to do. But I'm not leaving my home." He looked at me for a long time. Then he did something I didn't expect. He sat down on my couch. Just sat. Like he was tired. Like he was something other than the dangerous man in the expensive suit. "My father used to say that the universe has a sense of irony," he said quietly. "That it puts people in your path exactly when you need them. Exactly when they need you. And usually in the most inconvenient way possible. I don't need you. Maybe not. But I might need you." The honesty in his voice made me pause. "Why?" I asked. "Because you translated words I've been trying to understand for 27 years. Because you walked into my life at exactly the moment I was looking for that diary. Because..." He stopped. Looked at his hands. "Because when you said that phrase in Italian, I heard my father's voice. And I haven't heard his voice in my memory for a very long time." "Why half?" I sat down in the chair across from him. Safe distance. Enough space that I could run if I needed to. "Tell me about him," I said. "Why?" "Because you're asking me to upend my entire life, based on your word that I'm in danger. The least you can do is help me understand why." Luca leaned back. The leather of my old thrift store couch creaked under his weight. Marco Andretti. That was his name. He was 43 when he died. Ruthless in business. Gentle at home. He taught me to read before I started school. Taught me to shoot before I was 10. He knew what kind of life I'd inherit, knew what it would cost me, but he prepared me anyway. Do you ever regret it? The life you inherited? Every day, and never. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something raw beneath the control. I didn't choose this. But I choose to do it well. I choose to protect my family, my people, my city, even if it means I never get to be normal. Even if it means I'm always looking over my shoulder. That sounds exhausting. It is. The coffee maker beeped. I got up, poured 2 cups, handed him one even though I didn't know how he took it. He drank it black. Of course he did. "The diary," I said. "What else is in it?" "Names of people my grandfather worked with. Descriptions of deals, territories, alliances. Proof of corruption at the highest levels of city government. Proof that certain fortunes were built on blood. If it got into the wrong hands, it would destroy your family. It would destroy everyone, including people who think they're safe. Including people who've spent decades pretending to be legitimate." He set his cup down. "That's why they're watching you. They think you might have read more than you did. They think you might be leverage. So what do? You disappear for a while. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find you. I have a job. I have classes to teach. I have a life. You'll have a grave if you stay." The bluntness of it was like a slap. "How long?" I asked. "Weeks. Maybe months. However long it takes me to neutralize the threat." "And what does that mean?" "Neutralize?" His silence was answer enough. I stood up, walked to the window, looked down at the street where the blue car had been, where Luca's car now sat like a promise or a threat. "I need time to think," I said. "You don't have time. Then I need to pretend I do." He came to stand beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him, smell that cedar and smoke scent again. Close enough that when he spoke, I felt the words as much as heard them. "I'm not going to let anyone hurt you," he said. "I'm not good at many things, but I'm very, very good at protecting what's mine. I'm not yours, no. But you're under my protection now. Which means you're as close to mine as anyone gets to be." I turned to look at him. Our faces were inches apart. His eyes were dark brown, almost black in the dim light of my apartment. There was a scar at his temple, thin and pale. A story I'd never hear. "If I do this," I said, "if I disappear with you, I need to know something." "What? Are you one of the good guys?" He smiled then. It was a terrible smile, full of knowledge I didn't want to understand. "No," he said, "but I'm better than the alternative." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We know you're with him. We know what you read. There's still time to choose the right side." Luca's phone buzzed at the same time. He read his message, and his face went cold. "They're outside again. Different car. 3 men. He pulled a gun from inside his jacket, checked something, tucked it back. "Get your bag. We're leaving now." "Luca." "Now, Elena." His voice left no room for argument. I packed quickly. Clothes, laptop, phone charger, my notebook, with all my translations. The essentials of a life that was ending whether I wanted it to or not. When I came back to the living room, Luca was standing by the door, alert and coiled like something predatory. Stay close to me, he said. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to get down, you get down. Understand? Yes. He opened the door. The hallway was empty, but I could feel them waiting, somewhere in the dark, somewhere close, waiting to see what we'd do, waiting to see if we'd survive. Luca's safe house wasn't what I expected. I'd imagined something stark and modern, all chrome and security cameras and bulletproof glass. Instead, he took me to an old Victorian on the edge of the city, surrounded by overgrown gardens and iron gates that had rusted into permanent beauty. This was my grandmother's house, he said as we pulled up the gravel driveway. She died when I was 12. No one's lived here since. Why keep it? Because some places hold memory better than people do. We'd driven for an hour through rain that never stopped, taking turns I couldn't track, doubling back on streets that all looked the same in the dark. His men were behind us, 2 cars, enough distance that they weren't obvious, close enough that Luca checked his mirrors every 30 seconds. No one followed us. Or if they did, they were better at it than I could detect. The house smelled like old roses and dust. Luca turned on lights as we walked through a foyer with checkered floors, a living room with furniture covered in white sheets, a kitchen that probably hadn't been used in years. Upstairs, he said. Second door on the left. The room overlooks the garden. You'll be safe there. Where will you be? Close. I climbed the stairs alone, found the room he'd described. It was beautiful, in a faded-way wallpaper with tiny flowers, a 4-poster bed, windows that rattled slightly in their frames. Someone had been here recently enough to put fresh sheets on the bed, to leave towels in the attached bathroom. I sat on the bed and tried not to think about how my entire life had changed in 4 days. I tried not to think about the man downstairs who'd killed people he hadn't said it, but I knew. The way you know things about predators and who'd promised to keep me alive. I tried not to think about how I'd felt standing close to him in my apartment, how some stupid part of me had wondered what would happen if I closed the distance between us. That was shock talking, trauma, the weird intimacy that came from shared danger. It wasn't real. I unpacked my bag, found my notebook, sat by the window and tried to write, tried to process, tried to make sense of anything. A knock on the door. Come in. Luca entered carrying a tray with food, bread, cheese, wine, fruit. He set it on the small table by the window. You need to eat, he said. I'm not hungry. You will be. And it's better to eat before the adrenaline wears off. He was right. I took a piece of bread, forced myself to chew, to swallow. He sat in the chair across from me. Outside, lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the wild garden below. How did your grandmother die? I asked. Cancer. She fought it for 3 years, refused treatment that might have helped because she said she was ready. He poured wine into 2 glasses, handed me one. She was the only person in my family who tried to talk my father out of the life, who begged him to walk away, to take us somewhere safe. He didn't listen. He couldn't. When you're born into this, when it's in your blood, walking away isn't really an option. There's always someone who needs protection, always someone who'd use your absence as weakness. He drank. She told me once that the cruelest thing about our family was that we confused love with loyalty, that we destroyed ourselves trying to protect each other. Was she right? Yes. The word sat heavy between us. Why did you bring me here? I asked. To this house specifically, because it's the only place I've ever felt safe. The only place that didn't demand I be someone I'm not. He looked around the room, and something in his face softened. My grandmother used to read to me in this room. Old stories. Mythology. She said if I understood stories, I'd understand people. I'd know what they wanted before they knew themselves. Did it work? Sometimes, not always. He set his glass down. Elena, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Okay, when you translated that phrase about death and silence, did anything else in the diary stand out to you? Any names, dates, anything? I thought back to that night in the library. To the pages I'd skimmed before finding that particular passage. There was a name, I said slowly. I didn't think much of it at the time, but it appeared several times in the margins. Julieta. Your grandfather mentioned her like she was important. Luca went very still. What else? A date. The 17th of October, 1947. It was circled, and next to it, he'd written something like, I'm translating loosely, the day I chose power over love. The day I became what I hated. Jesus. He stood abruptly, walked to the window, pressed his forehead against the glass. Luca, Julieta was my grandmother's name. Her real name, before she married my grandfather. His voice was rough. I never knew how they met. My father wouldn't talk about it. My uncle claimed she was always part of the family. But if my grandfather was writing about choosing power over love, he did something to her. Or for her. Or because of her. He turned to face me. That diary isn't just a record of business. It's a confession. Of what? I don't know yet. But I'm going to find out. He left the room without another word. I heard his footsteps on the stairs. Heard a door close somewhere below. I finished my wine and tried to sleep. But my mind wouldn't stop turning over the pieces I'd found. A woman named Julieta. A choice made in 1947. A man who built an empire and regretted it. And his grandson, standing in a dead woman's house, trying to understand where his blood came from. At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went downstairs. Luca was in the study, a room I hadn't seen before, lined with books and smelling of leather and old paper. He'd found the diary somehow, had it open on the desk in front of him, and was reading by lamplight. "Can't sleep?" he asked, without looking up. "No. You?" "I don't sleep much." I sat in the chair beside the desk. "What are you looking for?" "The rest of the story. The part that explains why my grandmother lived in this house alone for 15 years after my grandfather died. Why she never spoke his name. Why she told me, right before she died, that I should forgive him because he'd never forgiven himself." He turned a page, then another, then stopped. "Here," he said quietly. He turned the diary toward me, pointed to a passage. I read, translating as I went. "I took her from the man she loved, killed him in front of her, made her marry me because I wanted to own something beautiful, something good, something that might save me from what I was becoming. But you can't force salvation. You can only destroy it. She gave me sons, gave me years of quiet hatred, and when I died, she was free. I hope she forgave me. I hope my grandsons never have to make the choices I made. I hope they're better men than I was." Luca's hands were shaking. "He was a monster," I whispered. "He was my family. Those aren't mutually exclusive." He looked at me then, and his eyes were full of something I couldn't name. Pain, maybe, or recognition. "No," he said, "they're not." We didn't talk about the diary for the rest of the night. Luca made coffee as dawn broke strong and bitter. The way I was learning, he preferred everything. We sat in the kitchen while rain drummed against the windows, and I tried to reconcile the man in front of me with the legacy he carried. "Tell me about you," he said suddenly. "What?" "You know everything about me now. My family, my work, my dead grandmother's secrets. But I don't know anything about you except that you translate old documents and you're not afraid of me when you should be. I am afraid of you. Not enough." He was right. There should have been more distance between us, more awareness of the danger he represented. But something about this house, about the rain, about the way he'd looked when reading his grandfather's confession, it had eroded the walls I should have kept up. "What do you want to know?" I asked. "Why you came back to this city. You're not from here originally, I can tell by your accent. Something East Coast, but not New York. Somewhere smaller. Boston. I grew up there. Came here for grad school. Left after I stopped. I left. Came back 3 months ago, because I needed somewhere familiar that wasn't home." "What were you running from?" The question was too direct, too intimate for what we were. But I answered anyway. "A relationship that ended badly. The kind where you look back and realize you lost yourself trying to be what someone else wanted. Where you wake up one day and don't recognize your own life." "Was he dangerous?" "Not in the way you mean. But yes. Emotionally. Psychologically. The kind of dangerous that's legal and socially acceptable." Luca nodded like he understood. "And the library? The translations? I've always been good with languages. It was the one thing my ex couldn't control, the words I read. The worlds I could access that he couldn't enter. So I leaned into it. Made it my escape. Eventually made it my career. And now you're caught in someone else's escape. Apparently." He smiled slightly. "Not happy, but something close to it. My grandmother would have liked you. She had a thing for people who found power in words. What about you? Do you like me?" The question surprised us both. Luca set his coffee down carefully. "I don't know you well enough yet to answer that fairly. But I like the way you stood up to me in your apartment. I like that you asked to know about my father instead of running. I like that you're sitting here having coffee with me like we're normal people having a normal conversation. We're not normal people. No, but we could pretend." The air between us shifted, became charged with something I didn't want to name. Don't, I said quietly. Don't what? Whatever you're thinking, don't. Elena, I just got out of a relationship where someone controlled my life. I'm not looking to trade one cage for another. This isn't a cage. Isn't it? You're keeping me here. Keeping me safe, you said. But also keeping me. And yes, I understand why. Yes, I'm grateful. But don't confuse proximity with connection. Don't confuse shared danger with actual intimacy. I stood up, put my cup in the sink, started to leave. His hand caught my wrist. Gentle. Not restraining, just there. You're right, he said, about all of it. And I'm sorry if I made you feel trapped. That wasn't my intention. Then what was your intention? He let go of my wrist but didn't step back. We were close again, the way we'd been in my apartment. Close enough that I could see the stubble on his jaw, the exhaustion around his eyes, the small scar at his temple that I wanted to touch for reasons I couldn't explain. To not be alone, he said quietly. Even just for a morning, even just for coffee. The honesty of it broke something in me. I'm scared, I admitted. Of all of this, of you, of what happens when I leave this house. I know. And I don't know how to be around you. I don't know what we are. I don't know what's real and what's just survival instinct. Neither do I. That's not reassuring. No, but it's honest. Rain fell. Coffee cooled. Somewhere in the house, old wood settled and creaked. Can I ask you something? I said. Yes. Have you ever loved anyone? Romantically. Not family, not loyalty, just love. He was quiet for a long time. Once. When I was 25. She was a teacher at the school where we'd placed my niece, completely separate from my world. She didn't know who I was, what I did. For 6 months, I got to be just a man. Just someone who took her to dinner and walked her home and pretended I had a normal life. What happened? My enemies found out, sent her photos of me, of things I'd done, of the people I'd killed. She called me, crying, asking if it was true. I said yes. She hung up. I never saw her again. Did you try to explain? What was there to explain? She saw what I was. She made the smart choice. Do you ever think about what would have happened if she'd stayed? Every day for 3 years, then less, then not at all. He looked at me. Until I met you. And now I'm thinking about it again. My breath caught. Luca, I'm not saying I love you. I'm not saying anything will happen between us. I'm just saying... He stopped, started again. I'm just saying that for the first time in a long time, I'm with someone who knows what I am and is still standing here talking to me. And I don't want to waste that. I don't want to take that for granted. I don't know what to say to that. You don't have to say anything, but I wanted to. I wanted to tell him that I understood, that despite every rational instinct, despite every lesson I'd learned about protecting myself, I felt the pull toward him too. Felt the dangerous curiosity about what might exist beneath the control, beneath the violence, beneath the carefully constructed armor. I wanted to tell him that I'd spent 3 months rebuilding myself, and the last thing I needed was to fall for someone who lived in a world where love was a weakness and vulnerability was a death sentence. Instead, I said, I need to shower. I need to think. I need space. He nodded and stepped back. Take all the space you need. I'll be in the study if you need anything. I went upstairs, stood under water that was too hot, and let myself cry for the first time since this started. Cried for my normal life. Cried for the woman who'd thought her biggest problem was loneliness. Cried for the impossible situation I'd found myself in, where the most dangerous man I'd ever met was also starting to feel like the safest place I'd ever been. When I finally came downstairs, Luca was gone. Just a note on the kitchen table. Had to handle something. My men are outside. Don't leave the house. I'll be back tonight. L. I spent the day reading his grandmother's books, translating passages from the diary, trying to piece together the story of a woman who'd been forced to love a monster and had somehow survived it, trying not to see the parallels, trying not to wonder if survival was enough. Luca returned after midnight, covered in rain and something darker, blood. I saw it on his shirt collar when he came into the living room where I'd fallen asleep on the couch with one of his grandmother's books. Saw it on his knuckles when he set his keys down. Are you hurt? I asked, standing. No. Whose blood is that? No one you need to worry about. That's not an answer. He looked at me, then really looked at me, and I saw exhaustion, frustration, something that might have been regret. Someone tried to get information about your location from one of my men. He stopped. They hurt him badly. I made sure they understood that was a mistake. You killed them. Yes. No hesitation. No apology. I should have been horrified, should have run, should have called the police, or demanded he take me home, or done literally anything other than what I did, which was step closer. Did your man survive? I asked. Yes. He's in the hospital. He'll recover. Good. Good. I'm glad he's alive. I'm glad you protected him. Even though I killed the people who hurt him? I don't know what I feel about that part yet, I admitted. But I know that if someone hurt the people I cared about, I'd want them to pay. So maybe I'm not as different from you as I thought. Something flickered in his eyes. You're nothing like me, Elena. How do you know? Because you still feel guilt when you imagine violence. I stopped feeling guilt 15 years ago. He moved toward the stairs, and I knew if I let him go, if I let this moment pass, the distance between us would become permanent, safe, uncrossable. I didn't let him go. Wait, I said. He stopped. You need to clean up. The blood, you can't just leave it. I'll handle it. I know how to get blood out of clothes. I know. I stopped. Just let me help. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. We went upstairs to the bathroom, the main one, not the ensuite in my room. Large and old-fashioned, with a clawfoot tub and tile that had probably been installed before World War II. He took off his jacket, his shirt. I tried not to look at his body, at the scars that covered his skin like a map of violence survived, but it was impossible not to see them. Hydrogen peroxide, I said, focusing on the practical. Do you have any? Under the sink. I found it, along with a clean washcloth, started working on the shirt collar, dabbing at the blood until it lifted, until the fabric was just stained white from the peroxide, instead of stained red from someone's life. He stood very still while I worked, watching me in the mirror above the sink. Why are you doing this? He asked quietly. Because you can't go around wearing evidence. That's not what I mean. I set the shirt aside, started on his hands. They were strong, scarred, capable of terrible things, but they held still for me while I cleaned them, while I scrubbed the blood from under his nails and between his fingers. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe because this is how I make sense of things, by doing something practical, something concrete. Maybe because if I focus on the blood, I don't have to focus on what created it. That's avoidance. Yes, I don't want you to avoid what I am. I'm not avoiding it. I'm standing here, cleaning blood off your hands, fully aware of where it came from. I stopped. I'm just trying to figure out how to be okay with that. And I don't know if I can be, but I'm trying. He caught my wrist, the way he had in the kitchen. Gentle. Always gentle, despite everything else he was. You don't have to try, he said. You don't owe me anything, Elena. Not your comfort with my choices, not your understanding, not anything. Then why do I feel like I do? Because you're kind. Because you've been trained to make things okay for other people. Because some part of you thinks you can fix me. Can I? No. The certainty in his voice should have ended the conversation. Instead, it made me angry. Then what are we doing? I asked. What is this? Because I've been here for 3 days, hiding in your grandmother's house, learning about your family's sins, and I still don't understand what you want from me. I want you safe. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Bullshit. He blinked, then smiled slightly. Bullshit? Yes. You want something more than my safety. I've seen how you look at me. I've felt I gestured vaguely between us. Whatever this is, so don't lie to me. Don't pretend this is just about protecting a witness. Elena, tell me the truth, Luca. Why did you really bring me here? To this house specifically? To the place that meant something to you? He was quiet for a long moment. Rain hit the windows. The old house creaked. Because I wanted you to know me, he said finally. Not the version I show the world. Not the boss or the killer or the man who controls territories. Just me. The person I was before all of this. The person my grandmother tried to protect. Why? Because when you translated those words, when I heard my father's voice in them, I realized I'd been looking for something without knowing what it was. And then you were there. And you weren't afraid. Not really. You were curious. You wanted to understand. And I thought... He stopped. I thought maybe if someone understood, I could stop feeling so fucking alone. My throat tightened. Luca. He pulled me closer. Not fast. Not demanding. Just closer. Until I was standing between his knees, where he sat on the edge of the tub, until his hands were on my waist, and mine were on his shoulders, and we were breathing the same air. Tell me to stop, he said quietly. I don't want you to stop. Tell me this is a bad idea. It's a terrible idea. Tell me you don't feel this too. I can't. He leaned in. I leaned in. Our lips were inches apart, and then his phone rang. The sound shattered everything. He pulled back, answered, his face going hard and cold in seconds. When? He said. Then. How many? Then. I'm on my way. He hung up. Looked at me with something like regret. They found the house, he said. We have to leave. Now. I heard it then. Beneath the rain. The sound of cars on the gravel driveway. Too many cars. We were out of time. We moved fast. Luca grabbed my hand. Pulled me out of the bathroom. Down the hallway. Behind us. I heard the front door splinter. Heard men's voices. Harsh and urgent. The back stairs, Luca said. There's a passage from the kitchen to the garage. My grandmother had it built during the war. She was paranoid about having multiple exits. We ran. My heart was a hammer. My breath was fire. Behind us, footsteps, shouts, the sound of furniture being overturned. The kitchen was dark. Luca moved through it like he'd memorized the space in childhood, pulling me toward what looked like a pantry door. He opened it, revealed narrow stairs descending into darkness. Go, he said. I'll be right behind you. Luca, go. I went. Down the stairs, into a tunnel that smelled like earth and mildew. Behind me, I heard gunshots. Heard Luca returning fire. Heard him curse. Heard something heavy fall. Then he was behind me, slamming the door, locking it. Keep moving, he said. His voice was rougher than before. Strained. Are you hit? I'm fine. Move. The tunnel led to a garage that housed 3 cars under dust covers. Luca pulled the cover off a Mercedes, threw me the keys. You drive, he said. That's when I saw the blood seeping through his shirt. Fresh blood. His blood. You're not fine, I said. I'm fine enough. Drive, Elena. They'll breach that door in 3 minutes. I drove. Out of the garage, through a back gate I didn't know existed, onto a service road that wound through what looked like abandoned farmland. Luca directed me through turns, through back roads, through a maze of streets that blurred together in the rain and my panic. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere they won't expect. Where? The cathedral. Downtown. It's been under my family's protection for 60 years. They won't risk the publicity of attacking it. A church? You're taking us to a church? My grandmother's buried there. I know every entrance, every hiding place, every confession booth that locks from the inside. He pressed his hand against his side, and blood seeped through his fingers. Just drive, Elena. Please. I drove. The cathedral rose against the night sky like something out of a Gothic novel, all spires and stained glass and stone that had witnessed centuries of prayers and sins. Luca directed me around to the back, to a parking area hidden behind high walls. We got out. He could barely walk. How bad is it? I asked, supporting his weight. Bad enough. You need a hospital. No hospitals. They'll be watching hospitals. Then what? There's a priest. Father Marco. He owes my family. He'll help. We made it inside through a side door, into passages that were cold and dark, and smelled like incense. Luca knew the way, even half-conscious, leading me through turns and doors until we reached a small room that looked like an office. He collapsed into a chair. Find Father Marco, he said. Tell him. He stopped. Tell him Luca needs sanctuary. He'll understand. I found the priest in the main chapel, praying alone among the candles. He was old, maybe 70, with kind eyes and hands that shook slightly when I told him Luca's name. He came immediately. Didn't ask questions. Just brought medical supplies and started working on Luca's wound with practiced efficiency. Through and through, he said after examining it. You're lucky. Another inch to the left and we'd be having a very different conversation. Will he be okay? I asked. With rest and antibiotics and prayer, yes. Father Marco looked at me. You're the girl. The one they're looking for. I'm not a girl. I'm 32. He smiled slightly. At my age, everyone's young. You're the witness. The one Luca's been protecting. I didn't witness anything. I just translated something I shouldn't have. In this world, knowledge is as dangerous as testimony. He finished bandaging Luca's wound, stepped back. He needs to sleep. You should too. There are rooms upstairs, simple, but clean. No one will bother you here. How do you know? Because even monsters respect sanctuary. Even they need somewhere they can be forgiven. I couldn't sleep. I sat in the room Father Marco had given me, small, spare, with a single bed and a cross on the wall, and tried to process what had happened. Someone had found us. Someone had attacked. Someone had shot Luca. Someone inside his organization had betrayed him. At 3 a.m., I gave up and went back downstairs. Found Luca awake in the office, sitting in the dark, holding a phone. "You should be resting," I said. "I'm making calls. Figuring out who sold us out. Do you know? I have suspicions. My uncle, my father's brother, has been pushing for more territory, more aggression. He thinks I'm weak because I haven't started a war in 5 years. He might have decided to create one. By killing you? By forcing my hand. If I die, my cousin takes over. And my cousin is brutal. He'll give my uncle exactly the war he wants." I sat down across from him. "So what do we do?" "We. Yes, we. Like it or not, I'm involved now. So what do we do?" He looked at me for a long time. "I need to go to my uncle's house tomorrow night. Confront him directly. Either he admits what he's done, and we negotiate, or you kill him." "Yes. And me? What do I do?" "You stay here. You stay safe." "No, Elena, no. I'm not sitting in a church while you walk into a trap. I'm not." I stopped. "I'm not losing someone else because I stayed safe and quiet." "What does that mean?" I hadn't meant to say it. Hadn't meant to let that slip out. "My brother," I said quietly. "He died 3 years ago. Car accident. He'd asked me to go with him that night, just a normal drive to get coffee, and I said no because I was working. Because I had a deadline. Because I put something meaningless over someone I loved. And then he was gone." Luca was very still. "It wasn't your fault," he said. "I know that intellectually. But emotionally?" I shook my head. "I'll never forgive myself for choosing safety over being there. So don't ask me to do it again. This is different." "Is it? You're going somewhere dangerous. You might not come back. And if I stay here, if I let you go alone, and something happens," my voice cracked, "I won't survive that guilt twice." He stood carefully, moved around the desk, knelt in front of my chair. His hands found mine. "Elena," he said quietly, "I am not your brother. I am not someone you need to save, or someone you need to be there for. I am a man who has chosen this life, who has earned every enemy I have, who has made peace with the possibility that I won't see 40. You don't owe me your presence. You don't owe me your risk." "I know." "Then why?" "Because somewhere in the last 4 days, you stopped being just the dangerous man who pulled me into this. You became I couldn't finish." "What?" "Someone I care about. Someone I looked at him, at his dark eyes and his careful face, and the bandage visible under his shirt. "Someone I don't want to lose." He kissed me. Finally, after all the almost moments, all the interrupted closeness, he kissed me. And it wasn't soft or gentle or careful. It was desperate and honest and tasted like blood and danger and everything we'd been holding back. When we broke apart, we were both shaking. "Come with me tomorrow," he said. "Not because I need you, but because I want you there. Because if this goes wrong, I want the last thing I see to be you." That's morbid. That's honest. I kissed him again. Agreement without words. Commitment to whatever came next. Luca's uncle lived in a compound that looked like a fortress. High walls, security cameras, guards at every entrance. The kind of place that announced wealth and power and the certainty that neither could be touched. We arrived at sunset. Just the two of us. Luca had insisted on leaving his men behind. Said this had to be family business. Said bringing an army would be seen as weakness. I thought it was suicide. The guards let us through without questions. Either they'd been told to expect us, or Luca's face was enough of a pass. We walked through gardens that were too perfect, past fountains that probably cost more than most people's houses, into a mansion that looked like it belonged in a different century. Luca's uncle Roberto Andretti waited in a study that was all dark wood and leather, and the smell of expensive cigars. He looked like Luca. Same dark eyes, same careful posture, but older, harder, with the kind of face that had forgotten how to smile for real. "Luca," he said, "I wondered when you'd come. You knew I would. You made sure of it. I don't know what you mean. The attack at my grandmother's house, the men who knew exactly where to find us, the betrayal that could only have come from someone inside the family." Luca's voice was cold, controlled. "Don't insult me by pretending you're innocent." Roberto stood, poured himself a drink, didn't offer us any. "Your grandmother's house," he said thoughtfully. "You always were sentimental about that place. Your father hated it, hated that his mother never forgave his father for what he did. But you loved it. You saw it as some kind of sanctuary. He turned to look at us. That was your mistake. Sentiment in our world is a weakness. So you tried to kill me. I tried to force your hand. To make you understand that we can't keep playing defense. Can't keep pretending that peace will last. Our enemies are circling. They see your restraint as fear. They see your mercy as opportunity. And you think war is the answer. I think survival is the answer. And sometimes survival requires blood. Luca moved closer to his uncle. I stayed by the door, watching, ready to run or fight, or whatever the moment demanded. You put Elena in danger, Luca said quietly. You violated family sanctuary. You broke the code my father died protecting. Your father's code got him killed. My father's code kept this family together for 30 years. Your ambition will destroy us in 30 days. Something flickered in Roberto's eyes. Anger, maybe, or recognition. And what will you do, nephew? Kill me? Start a civil war? Watch this family tear itself apart? If I have to. Roberto laughed. It was a cold sound, empty of joy. You don't have it in you. You're too much like your grandmother, too soft, too concerned with morality and consequence. Your father knew it. Why do you think he died in front of you? Why do you think he made you watch? What? He wanted to harden you. Wanted you to see that mercy has a price, that love makes you vulnerable, that the only way to survive in our world is to cut off everything that makes you human. Roberto drank. But it didn't work. You're still that 8-year-old boy, hiding in a closet, watching his father die, and thinking there must have been another way. Luca's hand moved to his gun. Don't, I said from the doorway. Both men looked at me. Don't give him what he wants, I said. He's trying to provoke you, trying to make you prove you're capable of killing family. Don't do it. Elena. Luca's voice was strained. He wants you to be like him, wants you to cross that line, because if you kill him, you become what he says you are. You prove his point. Roberto smiled. Smart girl. Maybe she's the one with the spine in this relationship. Shut up, Luca said. Or what? You'll shoot me? Here, in my own home? In front of witnesses? Roberto gestured around the room. I realized then that we weren't alone. Guards stood in corners, watching, waiting. Go ahead. Make your choice. Family or power. Mercy or survival. The room was silent except for the distant sound of fountain water. Luca lowered his gun. I'm not going to kill you, uncle. No? No. Because you're right. I'm not like you. I'm not like my grandfather. I don't want power badly enough to destroy everything else. I want... He looked at me. I want something different. Then you're weak. Maybe. But I'll be weak on my own terms. Luca turned toward the door. Come on, Elena. We're leaving. We got 3 steps before Roberto spoke again. They found the diary. Luca. The complete version. The one your grandfather kept hidden. The one that names names and dates and crimes that could bring down half the city's government. Luca stopped. They'll publish it if you don't give them what they want. They'll destroy this family, your legacy, everything your father built. All because you wanted to play saint. Who are they? The Castellanos. They've been waiting for an excuse to move on our territory. You gave them one. By not starting a war. By being predictable. By being soft. Roberto set his glass down. You have 48 hours to give them Elena the witness who can verify the diary's authenticity, or they go public. Your choice. My blood went cold. I'm not a witness, I said. I translated one phrase. That's all. They don't know that. They think you read the whole thing. Think you can testify to its contents. Roberto smiled. So you see, Luca, you're going to have to choose after all. Your girl or your family. Love or legacy. Luca drew his gun again. This time he fired. Not at Roberto. At the window behind him, the massive floor-to-ceiling glass that overlooked the gardens. It shattered. Alarm screamed. Guards rushed toward us. Luca grabbed my hand and ran. We crashed through the broken window, into the gardens, toward the walls. Behind us, shouts, gunfire, the chaos of Roberto's men trying to stop us. Luca moved like he knew this place. Like he'd planned this escape in childhood games. Over walls, through hidden gates, into passages between properties that weren't on any map. We ran for 10 minutes, 15, until my lungs burned and my legs shook and I couldn't take another step. Luca pulled us into an abandoned building. Might have been a warehouse once, or a factory. Now it was just concrete and rust, and the smell of old rain. Are you okay? He asked, checking me for injuries. I'm fine. Are you? The wound in his side had reopened. Blood seeped through his shirt. I'll live. He sat down against a wall, breathing hard. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm so fucking sorry. I should never have taken you there. Should never have. Don't. Just don't. I sat beside him. What do we do now? I don't know. If the Castellanos really have the complete diary, if they really can destroy my family. He stopped. I can't let that happen. But I can't give you to them, so I don't know. There has to be another way. I've been looking for another way my whole life. There never is. I took his hand. Then we make one. How? I don't know yet, but we will. Together. He pulled me close, kissed my forehead, held me like I was the only solid thing in his world. Outside, sirens wailed. Police, probably. Or Roberto's men. Or the Castellanos coming to collect their prize. We had 48 hours. 48 hours to find a solution or lose everything. We spent the night in that abandoned building, taking turns keeping watch while the other tried to sleep. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept turning over the problem, looking for solutions that didn't exist, searching for a way out that wouldn't cost everything. At dawn, Luca's phone buzzed. A text from Father Marco. The Castellanos came to the cathedral. They're looking for you. They know about the diary. They know about Elena. Be careful. We need a plan, I said. Luca looked at me with exhausted eyes. There is no plan. There's just choices. All of them bad. Then let's think through the choices. Elena. No. Listen. You're too close to this. You can't see clearly. So let me think out loud, and you tell me if I'm wrong. He nodded. Choice 1. We run. Disappear. New identities. New lives. Leave your family to deal with the fallout. I can't abandon them. Okay. Choice 2. You give the Castellanos what they want. Me. I testify that the diary is real. That your family committed all these crimes, and they use it to destroy you. Absolutely not. Choice 3. You kill the Castellanos. Start a war. Win or lose, but at least fight. That's what my uncle wants. That's what everyone expects. Then what's choice 4? He was quiet for a long time. Then, we give them what they think they want, but not what they actually need. I don't understand. The diary is valuable because it's secret, because it's hidden knowledge. But if we make it public, if we release it ourselves, tell the truth before they can weaponize it, it loses its power as blackmail. Exactly. I thought about this. But it would still destroy your family, still ruin your father's legacy. Maybe. Or maybe it gives us control of the narrative. Maybe we get to explain the context, the choices, the reasons behind everything my grandfather did. He stood, started pacing. My grandmother used to say that secrets are only powerful until they're spoken. That shame thrives in darkness but dies in light. You're talking about confession. Yes, public, complete, honest. He looked at me, and terrifying. They'll hate you, your family, your people. Some of them. Others might respect the honesty. And the rest, he shrugged. The rest will leave. And maybe that's not the worst thing. Maybe I've been protecting people who don't deserve protection. What about your father? What he built? My father died telling me that the living scream forever. Maybe it's time I start screaming. Maybe it's time I stop letting dead men's choices control my life. I stood, went to him, made him look at me. If you do this, there's no going back. You'll make enemies of everyone. The families who are mentioned in the diary, the politicians whose corruption gets exposed, your own uncle who'll see it as the ultimate weakness. I know. You could die. I know. And you're still going to do it. Yes. He cupped my face in his hands. Because I'm tired of choosing between bad and worse. I'm tired of my grandfather's sins defining my life. I'm tired of being afraid. He kissed me softly. And because you deserve better than a man who's controlled by secrets and shame and inherited violence. I didn't ask for better. I know. But I want to give it to you anyway. The press conference was scheduled for noon at the cathedral. Father Marco helped us arrange it, called in favors with local media, made sure every major outlet in the city knew that Luca Andretti would be making a statement about his family's criminal history. We spent the morning preparing. Luca wrote notes, crossed them out, started again. I sat beside him, offering words when he got stuck, staying quiet when he needed space to think. At 11:30, his phone rang. His uncle. Don't do this, Roberto said. Luca had put him on speaker. Don't destroy everything your father built. My father built a legacy on blood and corruption. Maybe it's time it fell. They'll kill you. The Castellanos, the politicians, the families we've crossed, they'll all come for you. Let them. At least I'll die honest. And the girl? What happens to her? That's her choice. Not yours. Not mine. Roberto was quiet for a moment. Then, your father would be ashamed. My father is dead. And I'm done living for dead men. Luca hung up. We walked to the main chapel where reporters were gathering. Cameras, microphones, faces I didn't recognize but could read, skeptical, curious, hungry for scandal. Luca stood at the pulpit. I sat in the front pew. He began. My name is Luca Andretti. My family has controlled organized crime in this city for 4 generations. We've run illegal gambling, extorted businesses, corrupted politicians, and killed our enemies. This is not a secret. This is not news. But what you don't know is the extent of it. The names, the dates, the specific crimes. He pulled out the diary. Set it on the pulpit. This diary belonged to my grandfather. It details every major operation from 1947 to 1978. Every politician we bought, every business we controlled, every death we caused. I'm releasing it today completely, publicly, with full translations provided by an independent scholar. The room erupted. Questions, shouts, camera flashes. Luca waited for silence. I'm doing this for 2 reasons. First, because it's the right thing to do. Because secrets poison everything they touch. Because my grandmother spent her life living with the shame of what my grandfather did, and I won't let that continue. Second, because someone tried to use this diary to blackmail me. Tried to force me to sacrifice an innocent person to protect my family's secrets. And I refuse. I refuse to let my grandfather's choices control my life. I refuse to perpetuate a cycle of violence and shame. I refuse to be what everyone expects me to be. He looked at me. I choose differently. I choose honesty. I choose accountability. I choose... The window shattered. Gunfire. Luca dropped. I screamed. Everything became chaos, people running, Father Marco shouting, guards appearing from nowhere to return fire. I crawled to Luca. He was bleeding from his shoulder, but he was conscious, was pulling me down behind the pulpit. Stay down, he said. You're hit. I'll live. This was expected. What? I knew they'd try. Knew someone would be desperate enough to stop this. He pulled out his phone, made a call. It's done. Execute the plan. What plan? I sent copies of the diary to every major newspaper an hour ago. Timed release. By tonight, everyone will know everything. Even if they kill me, the truth is already out. The gunfire stopped. Luca's men had secured the area. Police sirens in the distance. Luca stood carefully, helped me up. His shoulder was bleeding, but he'd been right, it wasn't fatal. It's over, he said quietly. For better or worse, it's over. I held him while he bled. While the world learned his secrets, while everything changed, the fallout was catastrophic and beautiful in equal measure. Within 24 hours, 3 politicians resigned. 5 business leaders were arrested. The Castellano family went into hiding, their leverage destroyed by Luca's preemptive confession. Roberto Andretti disappeared. No one knew if he'd fled the city or if he'd met a quieter end. Luca didn't search for him. Said some goodbyes didn't need to be spoken. The Andretti family fractured. Some members stayed loyal, others vanished. A few even thanked Luca, said they'd been waiting for someone to end the cycle, to give them permission to walk away. Luca spent 3 days in the hospital recovering from his shoulder wound. The police questioned him extensively, but the district attorney ultimately decided that prosecuting him for his grandfather's crimes was legally impossible and politically complicated. They were watching him, though, waiting for him to make a mistake, waiting for proof that he was more than just a man confessing his family's sins. I stayed with him every day. We didn't talk much, didn't need to. The silence between us had changed, become comfortable instead of tense, intimate instead of awkward. On the 4th day, Father Marco visited. The cathedral is yours if you want it, he said. A place to start over, a place to rebuild. I'm not sure I'm qualified to rebuild anything, Luca said. None of us are, but we try anyway. After the priest left, I asked the question I'd been holding. What happens now? Luca looked at me. Honestly, I don't know. The business is done. I've appointed trustees to liquidate everything legal, shut down everything illegal. My assets are being seized or donated to victims' funds. I'll have enough to live on, but nothing like before. And I'm tired. I'm 36 years old, and I'm tired. Tired of violence. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of being afraid. He took my hand. I think I want to try being normal. See if it's too late for that. It's not too late. How do you know? Because I came back to this city thinking I was broken beyond repair, and then I met you. And you're more broken than I ever was, and you're still choosing to heal. So it's not too late. He smiled. It was the first real smile I'd seen from him, unguarded, genuine, almost boyish. Will you stay? He asked. While I figure out what normal looks like, will you? He stopped. Will you see if this us is real outside the danger and the drama and the chaos? Yes. Just yes. Just yes. Because I've spent 3 months running from connection, and I'm tired too, tired of being alone, tired of being afraid that if I let someone in, they'll break me again. I moved closer. You're dangerous, Luca. You're complicated and damaged, and you have more baggage than anyone I've ever met. But you're also honest. You're trying. And you saw me, really saw me, when I was hiding in a closet in a library, terrified and alone. So yes, I'll stay. I'll see what we are when the world isn't ending. He kissed me, properly this time, not desperate or stolen or interrupted, just soft and real and full of possibility. 6 months later, we lived in a small apartment near the cathedral. Nothing fancy, nothing that announced wealth or power, just 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with good light, and a view of the street where normal people lived normal lives. Luca went to therapy twice a week, worked with Father Marco on community outreach programs, learned to cook, badly, learned to sleep without a gun under his pillow, learned to answer when I called his name instead of always being halfway to the door, ready to run. I went back to teaching, started a translation service for legal documents, immigration papers, mostly, people trying to start over in a new place, trying to make sense of systems that weren't built for them. We had dinner with Luca's cousin, the one who hadn't fled, who'd stayed to help clean up the mess. We went to museums. We read books. We had arguments about stupid things like whose turn it was to buy groceries and whether it was too cold to open the windows. We were boring. It was wonderful. One night in December, while snow fell outside and we sat on the couch reading, Luca set his book down. I never thanked you, he said. For what? For quoting my father's last words that night in the library. For being there when everything fell apart. For choosing to stay when any sane person would have run. You're welcome. I mean it, Elena. You changed my life. You changed mine too. He pulled something from his pocket. A small velvet box. My heart stopped. It's not what you think, he said quickly. I'm not proposing. Not yet. Not until I'm more sure that I can give you the life you deserve. But I wanted you to have this. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple silver band, with a small inscription in Italian. What does it say? I asked. La morte viene con il silenzio, mai vivi urlano per sempre. Death comes with silence, but the living scream forever. He took my hand. You taught me to scream, Elena. You taught me that silence isn't safety, that secrets aren't protection, that the only way to really live is to be honest about what we are, what we've done, what we want. So this is, I don't know, a promise maybe, a reminder, a way of saying that I choose this. I choose you. I choose to keep screaming. I put the ring on. It fit perfectly. I love you, I said. The first time I'd said it out loud. The first time I'd let myself feel it completely. I love you too, he said. And I'm terrified that's going to ruin us both. But I love you anyway. We sat there in the snow, and the silence and the safety we'd built from ruins. 2 broken people trying to be whole. 2 survivors, learning what came after survival. 2 voices that had learned to scream together. Epilogue. The diary became a bestseller after a publishing house bought the rights and released it with full historical context. Scholars studied it. True crime podcasts dissected it. HBO bought the rights for a limited series. Luca refused all interviews. Said the diary spoke for itself. Said he'd done enough talking. But he did one thing. He found Giulietta's grave, his grandmother's grave, at the cathedral. Brought fresh flowers every week. Stood there in silence, sometimes crying, sometimes just standing, sometimes talking to her about his life and his choices and the woman he loved. I came with him when he asked. Stayed away when he needed to be alone. We were figuring it out, day by day, mistake by mistake, kiss by kiss. We were learning that love after trauma is messy and hard and uncertain. That healing isn't linear. That sometimes the best you can do is wake up and choose each other again. We were learning to live, to scream, to be, together, and that was enough.